go play Uno with her, you better bring a chocolate shake. But if there were options and strawberry and vanilla and everything else was an option, she liked to decide. When we were making the Uno cards for tonight, I called Brittany and I said, did you know they have an Uno dare game? Well, we're just going to thank God Nikki didn't know that, because not only could you get someone to draw two, you can give them a dare. And Nikki would have dared Brittany and I to do some crazy things. I'm sure we would have pulled the fire alarm in the nursing home to see which fireman responded. Cartwheels up and down the hallway. Whatever Nikki came up with, she would make the rules. My favorite memories of Nikki is probably our Las Cruces trip. Brittany called me the night before and said that she wasn't going to go with us to the conference, and she was going to stay home with Nikki, and I said, take Nikki with us. So we drove down there, and we left Brittany at Target, and parked in another parking lot waiting for her. And I will tell you, during the Farm Bureau conference, the girls spent more time talking to everyone than Brittany and I did. And she was on the dance floor far more than both of us combined. And Nikki stole the show everywhere we went. On the way back from that trip, she happily told me stories on all of her siblings and her cousins and all the family secrets while we thought Brittany was asleep. Apparently she wasn't. So I'll always remember Nikki for her smile, and she taught me something about forgiveness, because it didn't matter what someone had done to her or if someone had not been there for her, she was always happy to see them and had a smile on her face and never would say anything bad about them. Hi everyone. So I've told a handful of you that in the process, I feel like in the past 3 weeks or so, I've probably cried out all the tears that I can. So if I'm up here and I'm talking normally and everything is fine, please don't take that as insincere at all. There's a lot of feelings built up, and it could take you at any moment, so just bear with me. Okay. So this is like a little pre-warning here. This is whenever I was writing this, I kind of added a little to it. It's now midnight, and I'm sitting, listening to the crickets outside chirping loud as I sit on the couch thinking how to compose this letter, the compilation of stories that's somehow supposed to sum up Nikki's life and how it impacted mine as one of her sisters, and as all of yours as well, friends and family alike. But I stare down the hall, and I wait for her to call me. Britt, can you help? Can you come here? That was one of her normal sayings for me late at night, 2 a.m., 1:30, 12:30, didn't matter what time. She was pretty much at her beck and call. There's still a level of Pavlov's theory at work there, where I innately think, and it registers at me, that late night chirps for the crickets also simulate Nikki's call for me for assistance in readjusting her pillow, late night talks about boys still, or being able to rush back to her bedroom to go ahead and look into her eyes and know exactly what she's thinking. No one else exactly knew what that call meant better than her B. Lardner. You see, when I went off to preschool, there would be a time whenever my mom would stay at home with Nikki all day long, and all that she would do was cry for her B. Lardner. That's all that she could say at 3 years old, was she wanted her B. Lardner. And sure enough, I'd come home from school and we'd be back in the bedroom playing with dolls. I called her my baby doll. So that's where the B. Lardner came from, and it's been my calling ever since. So today we're here to celebrate the life, love, faith, and humility that Nikki was able to showcase during her 27 years with us. It's hard to put together into words and lay it out on paper what she meant to us, but if I had a word count, I'd have used them all because she meant everything to me. But there really are no words that can make my head stop from aching in every lobe and cortex, or fix my heart from not being pumped for the day's activities. There's no pill, no doctor, no hypnotic chant that can get my body clear of the what ifs, if only, and had we known of X, Y, and Z. But God can. His words are words of love, faith, love, and humility that shape the way that we should view our interactions with everyone. Nikki lived God's word throughout every step. She came up with the phrase on my dad's cancer awareness bracelet saying, "Everyone is someone's everything." And I pray that each of us can make someone know I pray that each of us can make someone know and feel that very way, that they are someone's everything. In Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, it reads, "Trust in the Lord with all your ways and with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make the path straight." And she did just that. Right now, guys, I'm going to be honest, I don't understand why this happened to her, but my faith in our Lord is bigger. Although we feel that she had much more to live and offer, perhaps she was on a mission on earth for something larger, and perhaps she's supposed to pass that on to us, okay? So that everyone may continue to live with her in our hearts, and that we may pass down that gift of faith and everlasting joy to be with our Lord in heaven. My dear friend Loretta recently lost her husband. He was 27 as well. And in talking with her about Ethan's whole life, she opened up to me about how she believed wholeheartedly that he was supposed to serve God in so many ways, and that he was supposed to still have a mission here. And she couldn't understand why God would take him before he was to go home and to his home country and serve the needy and the broken. I thought about my response long and hard because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just out of reaction or that it seemed out of taste. But I thought about it and I told her, "Loretta, I believe that his mission is going to go on, and it will. And perhaps it's supposed to go on in all the people that he knew, and that we will use him as an inspiration to continue to spread God's love, 7 times 70. God's love spreads like a wildfire in the presence of believers, and in short, one of his best friends actually started raising money to go ahead and build a church plant in one of those developing countries. So among many plans, his is continuing. So like Ethan's life mission to care for people and share the gospel, I know that Nikki has inspired all of us throughout the years for her perseverance, continual fight, and her faith. So I can't wait to see what can be created in her memory. She was my little sis, my Nikki, my true best friend. She inspired me to do things that either had already set limits for me on, or I had already made the decision not to do them because I had heard that I shouldn't do it. But she wasn't afraid to see how far was too far, because she knew that with Mike and I in the same school, she had backup in one way or another. She was a risk taker, a boundary redeterminer, and a very forgiving soul. She cared a lot about animals and agriculture, and when she was in the National FFA organization at our Belen chapter, she showed 2 goats, something I had never dreamed of doing because I was told that since we lived in a gated community and that we lived on a golf course, it'd be way too loud. Rightly so. But with being surrounded by the golf course, I thought that it was end of discussion, that's it, fine and dandy. I went on to go ahead and do tennis and student council and everything else that I could think of, but nope, not Nikki. She actually decided that if she can't have them there, then where can she have them? She did just that. She called up our ag teacher, and sure enough, he had some space at his house, and she went ahead and stepped up and said that they could be there. And so she wound up that year winning reserve grand champion with 1 goat, and she was chosen as grand champion showman for the other, which basically just shows how well you work with your animal, that it's well cared for, and that she's easily able to show the animal with presence. So her grace was there. So like I said, she redetermined boundaries. While she easily looked up to Michael, Michelle, and I, mainly because we were taller than her, all 3 of us in turn looked up to her for her ability to lay her life on the line and run into burning buildings at the possibility that they could still be someone in there that needed their saving. Some of Michelle's favorite memories of Nikki were when she was going to visit family in Texas. Nikki was around the age of 5 or 6, and Michelle got stopped by a cop and got a little speeding ticket. And Michelle thought that it would be their little secret and that it would just be done. But as soon as she got home, Nikki burst through the door and informed everybody of the speedy behavior that her sister had along the way. Michelle then in turn tried to get even with her sister by telling on her that she ate all of Aunt Mildred's homemade pickles. But I'll let you guys decide on who my mom was a little more focused on. A few years down the road, our parents allowed us to go down to NMSU in Las Cruces with Michelle and to stay for a few more days in the summer to hang out with her and see how college life is. There was one night where we were in the apartment complex with her, and Michelle was staying on the bottom floor, and her neighbors up above us were really loud. And so we came up with this idea that we would make just as much ruckus on back, so that way they knew what they were doing to us. So Nikki grabbed a broom, and while the rest of us grabbed anything that we could find, like flip-flops and anything that couldn't be broken, Nikki would jump onto the couch and she would bang with the end of the broom handle loud as she could onto the ceiling as she jumped off. And so just make really big thud sounds, and Nikki giggled the entire evening. And so that's one of our memories that we always look back on. After her accident, my mom confided in me that she had always felt bad that she was always so hard on Nikki. And as I listened, I opened up to her and I responded. And I said, well, that may be true, and I'm sorry you feel that way, but Mom, you had to be, you know? If you don't believe me, here's just a taste of what my mom was up against. My mom knew that she had her work cut out for herself. These two stories I've entitled First Grade Bus Driver and Third Grade Desk Walker. First grade bus driver, my mom knew that Nikki was old enough to where she could go ahead and ride the bus home from school. And so every day my mom would go ahead and wait for around that time that the bus would stop at the end of the drive. We kind of lived up on a hill. And so the bus would stop at the very bottom of the hill, and my mom would watch out the window, and she'd stand in the driveway. And Nikki would come walking up the hill. Well, one day my mom was looking out the window, and she looks, and all of a sudden this bus turns up the drive. And so my mom's like, well, that is so sweet. The bus comes on up the hill, and it makes a loop in the cul-de-sac, and it parks out in front. My mom's walking on down like, this is going to be great. Like, she decided to go and drive around that. Well, she looks out the window, and she opens the thing up. She looks at my mom, and she says, your daughter has been running up and down my aisles the entire ride. This is her last time riding the bus. So from first grade, she was never allowed to ride the bus again. So that put a lot of work onto my dad and mom. The second one was the third grade desk walker. Now, at St. Mary's, a nice little Catholic school in Berlin, it's thought that we would behave because we had a nun for a teacher. So Sister Carol was in the class, and Nikki was there, and all the other kids were there sitting there. And she had to go to the office for whatever reason. So she just told the kids to keep working on whatever they were doing, and she would come back shortly. And so a couple minutes passed by, not too long, but a couple minutes passed by, and she comes walking back in. Lo and behold, Nikki is walking back and forth on top of everybody else's desks while they're trying to get stuff done. We've yet to determine whether it was a dare or if it was just one of Nikki's pesky ideas of not having to do any work, but needless to say, my mom got a phone call that day from Sister Carol, and Nikki denied it the entire time. So I don't know if you want to believe a third grader or a nun at that point, but she had it in her. She was a daredevil, a stunt woman, and a lot of the times, Michael and I's guinea pig. So allow me to elaborate on that. You see, when you're the youngest of the pack, it's an urgency and a need to keep up with everyone else. One of them, for example, was at the quarry plant in Mexico Travertine. When Michael and I and Nikki were younger, maybe grade school area, my dad would actually take us up to the plant on Saturdays so that way we could go ahead and kind of play while my dad worked in the office. And so he would pick us up at McDonald's in the morning, and we'd have our sausage McMuffins and our orange juice because we weren't allowed to have soda. And I've never liked orange juice since then. But he would pick us up, and a couple of times Michael and Nikki and I decided that we would go and play out in the plant. And so it's this big open building, and there's this crane that's suspended on the ceiling. And essentially what it does is it picks up these big, huge slabs of stone, and you can take them along in different buildings and different parts of it because they're way too heavy. And so Nikki and Mike and I were like, we could have some fun here. This is like a playground. Mike was old enough to know where things were at over there, and my dad was at least able to show us how to get it lowered to a certain level, and then he would switch the breaker so we couldn't change anything on it. Well, a couple of times later, Mike was able to figure out where the breaker was at, and essentially what we did was we got these big, huge straps, and we put them onto the crane hook, and we lifted up just a little bit to where it was like a little swing in the shop. Well, you can imagine, with Michael being the constructor that he was, we figured out that it could go a lot higher too. So what we would do is Nikki would get in the sling and she'd start running. Pretty soon her feet would be picked up in the air and she'd kind of swing it on back. Pretty soon we decided to try and see the height of the levels, and Nikki just giggled along, and Mike and I were like, yeah, keep going, don't stop. Pretty soon we heard Dad call because he could see exactly what we were doing from where his little staircase was at. So we didn't get to do that too many times. That was always we did it as long as we could. Another time was calling for pizza. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but Mike and I feel like we were working on Nikki's public speaking skills. Growing up, she hated talking on the phone. She would do everything in her power to not talk on the phone. If it was the three of us staying at home and we told Nikki she had to order pizza, we could starve. Okay? She hated talking on the phone, but a couple of times we told her, we're like, well, if you don't want pizza, we're not getting pizza. That only happened a couple of times until she realized she needed pizza when Mom and Dad weren't home. So I had a couple of times where she would take over like that. Nikki made it easy, though, to converse and associate with someone in her situation. You see, not everybody feels easy and comfortable to talk to somebody in a wheelchair, someone with physical setbacks, and someone with a brain injury. A couple of reasons could be that some people don't want to say anything wrong, perhaps something offensive, or even do something that would trigger an emotional outburst. While all of those things may be true, it hurt Nikki when some certain friends or family wouldn't try at all. Nikki didn't choose her situation. It's something that she was stuck with, and she had to live with it, with those limitations that were set upon her because of her accident. One limitation that I vowed I would never put on her was the amount of interaction and love that I would provide her. I would go see her as often as I could, and obviously we had our little times of excitement and change, and we just had a great time because she was so social, and her interactions with people was what she craved most. And I know she'd do the exact same for me because that's what sisters do. We had spots been switched. I knew I could count on her. Something that I did on more than one occasion was pop her in the truck and take her with me places. One year, like my friend Danielle had mentioned, we took her on a trip to the New Mexico Farm and Livestock Bureau Summer Conference in Las Cruces. One of the members cheerfully walked up and asked her to be his dance partner. And that was the first time that anyone had twirled that girl on the dance floor since her accident. And she lived on the clouds, I could say. Her smile was as big as her heart, and that moment I knew she was free. Now I will say that as Nikki's sister, it's good for friends